Reactive Training Systems.
What is up? This is Jim Ellie with Reactive Training Systems, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some questions that we got on the RTS Instagram account. One of the questions that we got was about the top 3 programming principles, and I think it's an interesting question. I don't love these top 5, top 3 type videos because everything matters. Genuinely, everything matters. The degree to what it matters is going to change, but I did pick 3 that I think are important. I don't think that they're the only important things, but I do think they're important. The first thing that I think is really important, like most important thing, is that we are here to coach the athlete first. As coaches, our first and most important thing to do is determine what it is that the athlete wants. How do we cater to their needs? How do we make decisions that are in line with the goals that they set out in front of you? Ideally, you ask them about what their goals are. And that's really important, because ultimately, if you're making training decisions that are based on your goals as a coach, I want my athletes to go to Worlds. I want my athletes to go to Nationals so that I can look good as a coach. Well, that approach might some athletes need you to decide for them what they should do. That's a thing that can happen sometimes, but ultimately it's important that the athlete is guiding the decisions, that they're giving you a framework to work with. They're ultimately letting you know what is important to them, and then you can take that information with you when you make decisions. The next really important thing is to use a system that allows the process to evolve over time. Meaning that you're using a system that allows you to learn about what works and what does not work for that individual athlete. Typically, this means a lot of data tracking. It means allowing an athlete to send you information that is being built up over time about them. At RTS, we have the free online training log, by the way, and our athletes, they get their training sent to them, and that training is automatically uploaded to the training log. As a result, we're able to accurately record a lot of information about their training experience so that we can look back at it and analyze the actual data. If an athlete is indicating that they don't think they respond well to singles, but every time we implement singles, their estimated 1 rep maxes increase, then that's a good indication that they actually do respond well to singles, but perhaps they're psychologically stressed out by them, so maybe they're avoiding them. So it can be nice to have that data to let them know, hey, I get how you're feeling. Definitely can be frustrating to do heavy singles. It's difficult to identify with those heavy singles if they're not going well, because we're powerlifters, and heavy singles can be just more defining than like sets of 5, because we know we're going to be doing those singles in competition. But look, every time we do them, and after 5 weeks, your estimated 1 rep max is higher than it ever has been, even if it kind of feels like it isn't. So that's really important, and the fact that it's easy to access for both me and the client, that's incredibly helpful. So if you have a system like that, maybe you use Google Sheets or you use some other system, you send an Excel sheet and they track their inputs, you need to have that data collected and saved for the long run, not just for that developmental block. If you're restarting what you know about the lifter after every developmental block, and you don't have a log, an actual training log for months, weeks, months, years, then it can be kind of difficult to trust the process, because you don't have a process you're not able to visualize the actual process that you've gone through. If you have 6 weeks of training and you log that 6 weeks and then adds up to a year of training, you can see every up and down and left and right that you have within your training block, then you can trust the process, because you know that every 5th week you have a down session, and on the 6th week you have an up session, you have a positive session. And so you can trust the process because the process is actually tangible. It's a thing that you've written down. You know the process, you know your general trend for your training experience. So that's super, super helpful. Lastly, be aware of your coaching biases. Now, a lot of coaches don't want to admit that they have biases. Everyone wants to think that they're just even keeled and everything that they do is correct. What's really awesome about working with a variety of athletes is that quickly you realize that if you have a training preference as a coach, if you, I prefer all my athletes to train 4 times a week, for example, let's say I said that, I don't, but let's say I said that. At some point, an athlete is going to come along that does not respond well to that training methodology. Even if the majority of your lifters do, someone will come in and they will have a life context that just does not align with that training style. So we must be aware of those biases so that we can be ready to shift our approach for the individual. If we're not aware of our biases and we just keep doing the same things over and over again, and every time an athlete experiences a specific situation, we deploy the same approach with that person as every other person that has experienced that, then, maybe, just maybe, we have a bias for this approach, but there might be alternatives to consider. And this is great because it allows you to open your mind and open your ears to what training styles other people are using. I think that it's really important to notice a training style that works for somebody. Let's say the best lifter in the world is coaching himself, and he starts talking about his training approach. And he says, I squat once a week, I bench twice a week, and I deadlift 3 times a week. I don't currently program anyone that's deadlifting more than they bench, but he's the best lifter in the world, and he's responding well to that. Some people might say, oh, he's training well in spite of his training approach. Well, that's kind of easy to say because you can't prove it, but their training approach is working. That's what matters. That means that whether they're training in spite of it or not, this is a training approach that they are utilizing, and it's producing a positive result, and they may or may not be winning the championship or second, third, whatever. They're placing. They're doing pretty well. And powerlifting is not something that's easy to do really well in anymore. The amount of competition is high. So keep your ears open for new ways of training, even if they seem a bit skeptical, because you never know when that style of training might be utilized for an athlete that you're working with. So those are the 3 different ways of thinking, the principles of training that I think are really important to keep in mind. As I said before, there are plenty of other things to keep in mind, but in the context of YouTube and getting you to pay attention to this video, I only got 3 today. I'll expand a little bit more on other ways to think about coaching, and I hope you liked this video. Can't wait to make more of them, and I will talk to you in the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like a great precursor to the Emerging Strategies Classroom, where we talk about how to develop programming, how to find your time to peak, how to work with individuals in totally individualized training, you might be interested in our older courses, RTS Classroom, Microcycles, and Mesocycles. These classes teach you more in depth about exercise selection, about program design, about periodization theory, about what you can learn from that and then implement into our new bottom-up training approach that we have for our athletes. They are currently teaching hundreds of coaches around the world, and it's an awesome experience to join. Our next classroom starts in October, but right now you can sign up for the bundled package of microcycles and mesocycles to learn about all of these things. 20 courses, 10 hours of footage, Mike Tushir teaching you all of these things. Again, it's a great precursor to the Emerging Strategies Classroom. Click the link in the bio, and I will see you in the next video.
Reactive. Reactive Training Systems.